Hello, listeners, and welcome to Fungos and Fastballs. We so typically focus on individual players and games that we thought we'd concentrate today on the unsung hero who appears in every game. Yes, we're talking about the baseball itself. And with a first pitch to open on folks that can chuck said ball quite uniquely, the switch pitcher. But first, let's open with our trivia question. Who is the only person who's ever been inducted in both the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Stay tuned till the end for that answer. So on to our first pitch, which will focus today on the most uncommon type of player, the switch pitcher.
The switch pitcher? Or you mean the switch hitter?
Brooke. For those who can see on video, she's wearing her Biloxi Shuckers hat.
Yes.
No, I mean switch pitcher. Something rarely seen in the major leagues, but quite interesting. As the term indicates, a switch pitcher can pitch with either hand. Now, going back to the early days of baseball, some pitchers are listed as occasionally pitching with the opposite arm, including in the 1880s, Larry Corcoran and the wonderfully named Elton Icebox Chamberlain. I still love that nickname.
Yep.
Most times these pitchers switched just a few times or a few innings with their opposite hand. Good old Icebox, he came up in episode 3 when we went over Pud Galvin. In the 20th century, in the major leagues at least, no one has switch pitched a game until Greg A. Harris for the Expos in 1995.
Since he played in the National League, and it was before the designated hitter for that league, was he also a switch hitter?
He was indeed. Well, Harris would practice with both hands, but coaches kept pitching him righty until late in his 15-year career. In a game in the Reds, where he did switch from right to left for 2 batters and then returned to the right hand for the final batter. Now, the only Major League Baseball pitcher to actually switch pitch with regularity was Pat Venditte, who trained since childhood to throw with either arm. Venditte pitched mostly in the minors, but did make his Major League debut in 2016 and would appear in 61 total Major League Baseball games as a reliever with several teams, initially the Oakland A's. He also pitched for Team Italy in 2013 and 2017 for the World Baseball Classic. Venditte initially switched gloves, but umpires would not let him keep a second glove on the mound. So he had a custom glove made with 6 fingers, 2 thumbs, 2 webbings that allowed him to switch hands with that glove.
Actually, I saw on eBay, Rawlings makes a glove for switch pitchers.
Ooh, a potential.
It's about $150.
A potential purchase for my baseball knick-knack shelf.
It's not going to fit up there. But how did he do overall as a player?
Well, he had a lot of success in various minor league stints, but he lacked the velocity that a lot of major league teams were looking for in that day. I did chuckle at the news headline, though, when he debuted. It said, "Amphibious pitcher confuses hitter."
Amphibious? Did he swim all the way to the plate?
You're such a kidder. Now, you know they should have said ambidextrous. Now, at one point, though, when facing a switch hitter on the minor league Staten Island Yankees, Venditte changed hands. Then the batter wound up switching to the other side of the plate. So Venditte switched arms again, and the batter changed. Eventually, this went on, and the ump had to intervene. But this was a unique situation, so of course, Major League Baseball came up with the Venditte Rule, technically Rule 5.07F, stating a switch pitcher must choose an arm to pitch with each batter before the at-bat starts, and then stay with that arm at least until the next batter. No one else has switch pitched. Ooh, tough to say. No one else has switch pitched in the majors since. Some pitchers, like Yu Darvish with the Padres, have practiced pitching with off arms to try and keep them strong, but has not switch pitched in a game. And the Mariners drafted a switch pitcher in 2024, now with the Cardinals organization, but he hasn't appeared in the major leagues.
Well, that was an unexpected nugget of baseball trivia. Shall we start the episode?
Sure.
All right.
Hello and welcome to Fungos and Fastballs, the podcast of baseball history and trivia. I'm your host, Jerry Dines. Let's jump into today's episode.
So I run a fantasy baseball league. My team is called the Fargo Fungos. I love that alliteration. And my wife and our beloved producer gave her fantasy team a name that gave me some ideas for today's subject. Brooke took over the team when she was co-managing with our son and changed the name to something clever, the Turrialba Volcanoes.
That's right.
Oddly, I'm not sure anybody, when she came up with this name, bothered to look up what she might mean by naming her team that way.
I know. No appreciation from
I thought it was very
teammates.
clever.
Thank you.
Tell us about it.
All right. Well, back then on our fantasy team, all the teams have a city name and then some other word with it. And so I needed a location. I love beaches. I love palm trees. And I went on the internet and somehow I saw Rawlings baseballs were made in Costa Rica. So I ran with that. The town name, as you said, is Turrialba. I noticed there was an active volcano right in the city. So boom, the Turrialba Volcanoes was born. What I missed was it's not on a beach in Costa Rica. It is smack in the middle of the rainforest. Not a beach in sight.
No, you're right. Turrialba is in Central America, Costa Rica, and in that town is the only official Major League Baseball factory. Rawlings, the official manufacturer of Major League Baseball since 1977, has its baseball factory there. It's been there since the company moved the factory from Haiti in the 1980s. I don't believe the Rawling factory is open for public tours.
It is not. It is pretty well protected.
Yeah, so I'm not sure Turrialba is on my short list of vacation spots, even though the pictures of the landscape seem quite beautiful.
Rainforest and snakes and bugs. I don't think it's your cup of tea, babe.
Yeah, they have like flying snakes in those rainforests.
Flying
just drop from tree to tree. It's just pretty creepy. I'm sadly old enough to remember having Spalding baseballs as a kid. Spalding was the official Major League Baseball manufacturer of baseballs from 1876 to 1976. Now, founder Albert Goodwill Spalding, you have to include his middle name there, was such a major figure in the early days of Major League Baseball. He has been referenced in a few episodes. We'll probably have to have a separate episode on him alone and his role in baseball. So yes, long opening story to say that today on Fungos and Fastballs, we will focus on the baseball itself. Now, initially, in the mid-1800s, there were no standardizations of baseballs. They had a rubber core, typically from old melted shoes, wrapped in yarn and leather. Now, sometimes for the core, they would use rocks or even nuts. I even read some balls even use fish eyes. Ugh. Pitchers actually made their own balls, which seems like a pretty cool skill to have. There were variations in size between balls back then. Currently, a ball has a circumference between 9 and 9¼ inches, but back in the mid-19th century, a ball could vary anywhere from 8 to 11 inches in circumference. Quite the difference. But despite these guidelines, pitchers still varied the amount of rubber in their balls and how tightly they were wound when they made them, and that affected how fast and far they traveled. In our old vintage baseball episode, number 25, check it out, we learned that teams played with the 1860s lemon peel baseball. Single piece of leather, sewn together with 4 steams in a cross pattern. It looked like a lemon peel. These balls were lighter, softer, and had that darker leather color.
Yeah, during that episode, Tom Big Bat told us the balls back then were expensive and not made in bulk, so you had one per game. You hit a foul, you went and got your ball. You hit a home run, well, I assume the person who didn't catch your home run had to go get your ball.
Yeah, it reminds me of those local teams in the movie EFIS.
Exactly, they ran out of balls.
To get their own balls. Finally, in 1876, 150 years ago, the National League was created, and along with that came the standardization of baseballs. The aforementioned, good word, Albert Spalding, who got his start as a pitcher and made his own balls, got the National League to adopt his ball as the official ball of the sport. Now, the American League became a major league in 1901, but prior to that, it was a minor league called the Western League, and the enterprising Spalding even became the sole creator of the American League baseballs. Now, they were slightly different in quality, a little more lively off the bat. Interesting, the National and American leagues would have slightly different balls all the way until the 1930s. It's actually interesting to see how the changes in the construction of baseballs changed the game when it came to offenses, like the wrapping of the ball by pitchers. Early in the 20th century, balls were softer, and they were not replaced over the course of games, so they'd unravel a bit as the game went on, leading to less hits, lower scores, contributing to the dead ball of baseball that we've discussed in the past.
Yeah, and if it were a rainy day and the ball would get wet and it would get mushy, or if you had a pitcher that was a really good spitter, they could continuously spit on the ball throughout the game. And again, it would affect the ball and it would sort of turn to mush, making it hard to get a solid hit.
During the early days of baseball, when, right after it, from Rounders history, they actually used balls of paper for baseball. And during wet days, they just disintegrated.
Yeah, that's paper. Just hit it. And it just,
that would be a good story,
it's like
though.
confetti on the field.
I can just see these early guys. Let's try paper. No, that's not going to work.
Not gonna work.
Just kidding. Ignore that last paragraph, folks. But hey, everything else is.
It'd make it cut if we run long.
In 1910, for the World Series, Spalding changed the core from rubber to a more durable cork core, and balls were able to be hit farther and faster, leading to a bump in offense in the 1910s compared to the decade before. Now, pitchers adjusted. They had different strategies. They continued to muck up and dirty up the ball, making it harder to see. But in the 1920s, Spalding introduced Australian wool to wrap around the core, and this allowed tighter winding and more bounce. Now, this type of ball was called the rabbit ball, and it jumped off the bat. That, along with some other rule changes like the banning of the spitball, definitely contributed to players like Babe Ruth lighting it up. In 1925, Milton B. Reach patented a cushion cork center with cork surrounded by black rubber, surrounded by a layer of red rubber.
It's sort of like a turducken.
That's right, the turducken of baseballs.
Turkey, the duck, and the
chicken.
What is it? Chicken, yeah, that's right, the chicken inside.
In 1934, the National League and American League compromised on a standard ball with the cushion cork center covered in rubber, wrapped in yarn, and covered in a horsehide cover. Since then, baseballs really haven't changed that much, except the change to synthetic rubber in World War II and the change from horsehide to cowhide, typically from Holstein cattle, trivialer. In 1974. Now, rubber availability could be an issue, especially during World War II, because rubber was used for the war effort, and supply of baseball rubber went down as the major source, the Dutch East Indies, was taken over by Japan. Spalding, in response, would use rubber substitute called balata from the dried juices of tropical trees. It was introduced in 1943, but the ball came off much deader and actually would hurt batters' hands when they made contact. Spalding denied any kind of changes there, but it was pretty clear. After 1 week, the American League average dipped from 257 and 1 year later to 210. The entire American League had 3 home runs in the whole week. So the general manager of the Cincinnati Red, Warren Giles, took a dozen new balata balls and dropped them off a roof one by one, compared with a bunch of old balls. And the 1942 balls bounced 13 feet, the new balata balls 9.5 feet, disproving Spalding's, hey, there's nothing to see here. Everything's the same.
Yeah, well, luckily they all dropped at the same rate. Gotta love gravity.
Yeah, thank you, Galileo.
Exactly.
Well, happily, by the next season in 1944, synthetic rubber was now being manufactured to a significant extent, and that created a rebound in offense.
Spalding produced every MLB baseball from 1876 to 1976, 100 years. But after the contract ran out, Spalding had asked for an increase in the price, and the MLB switched to Rawlings. Now, a little bit of history with the company Spalding. They had actually acquired Rawlings in 1955, and they were using the Rawlings plants to produce the baseball with the Spalding label on it. But in the 60s, Spalding was forced to divest due to antitrust laws, and they were claimed to have a monopoly. And so Rawlings continued to produce the balls under the Spalding name, although they were spun off as their own company. But in this 1976, when the contract ran up, MLB did sign officially with Rawlings. So now every official MLB ball has the commissioner's signature on it for that year. And also, actually, in 2018, the MLB bought a stake in the Rawlings company so that they can oversee the quality of the balls and maybe possibly keep price under control.
It's all about the Benjamins.
Yeah. And actually, guess how much it costs about each ball, each Major League Baseball, the price?
$500,000.
Each baseball, right? No, $25.
Oh, that's actually more expensive than I thought.
I know.
Yeah. Well, of course, I got to talk about that iconic stitch pattern. Now, in pub trivia, which we're big fans of, the number of stitches comes up periodically as a question. There are 108 double stitches. Now, be careful how your trivia host asks this, because technically it's 216 individual stitches, but it is classically 108 double stitches, tied from an 88-inch red wax thread. Now, the number was adopted officially in 1934, has not changed. Why is it 108? Well, of course, less stitches would lead to greater spacing, less durability, but it's not exactly known why 108 as opposed to, say, 105 or 110. But, hey, that's the mystery. Those 108 red stitches, by the way, in at least Major League Baseball and college baseballs are still stitched by hand.
That is correct. Yeah, it probably has to do something with pie.
Like cherry or coconut custard?
The math.
Oh, PI.
3.156. I don't know what the numbers are. Someone can repeat them out there. YouTube has some great videos showing how the balls are made. It's not all the details because, of course, it's a secret. But the cores or the pills, they're made in Mississippi and shipped to Costa Rica, coated with an adhesive, then wrapped with 3 layers of different weights of wool yarn. And that yarn comes put together in Rhode Island, sent to Maine, and then sent down to Costa Rica. More glue goes on, and then leather from Pennsylvania and Tennessee gets wrapped around it and gets stitched together. Now, interesting, this is where stitching by humans has still beat out AI. Machines have tried, but nothing can match the tension and the curve needed when the stitch is going through the ball that an individual human's hand can do. Now, working into our elbow, hand-stitched balls take about 10 to 15 minutes each. Now, I'd probably take 3 hours, but a person can do it 10 to 15 minutes. There are hundreds of workers producing around 50,000 balls every week. And Rawlings sends out about 1.8 million balls a year to the MLB from that factory. But the other recreational balls that if you were playing in your backyard, those are coming mostly from China. So those 216 stitches, well, they break the airflow, and that's what gives the balls movement, but we're not getting into that science today.
So I'll give you a math question. If a stitch in time saves 9, how many do you save 108? Dun, dun, shh.
Oh, boy.
Bad joke. Well, baseballs were not always white in color. In the 19th century, we kind of mentioned that. They were whatever color the leather coating was, typically brown or tan. In the early 20th century, white balls appeared for better visibility with that red stitching there for contrast. But with the change to white balls, the job of the pitcher became dirty the ball, muck it up, darken it with dirt, chewing tobacco, shoe polish, so that it would hard to see for batters. Night games didn't start until 1935, so certainly when games stretched out into the latter part of the day, balls became very difficult to see. This changed after the tragedy of August 16th, 1920 in the Polo Grounds, when Cleveland Indians shortstop Ray Chapman was at the plate and died when hit in the head by a ball thrown by Yankees pitcher Carl Mays. Chapman remains the only Major League Baseball player to die from an in-game injury. And his death was responsible for a practice we see every game for umpires today, which is replacing balls that might be dirty, scuff, even hit the dirt once. Granted, when the rule first happened, ball replacement did not happen as much as it did today. In fact, today, teams are required to have a minimum of 13 dozen, 156 baseballs ready for each game. And on average, during a game, between 90 and 120 baseballs are used in a single game. Now, pitchers are not allowed to use substances on the baseball like Vaseline, pine tar, spider tack, or even saliva to change the spin or drop of a ball.
The start of the 2021 season, the batting average was .237. That was the lowest since 1968. And the issue they found was pitchers using spider tack. In June of that year, the MLB announced the umpires would check the pitcher's hand after every inning, plus they could also randomly check. And if there was any kind of substance found on their hands, in their gloves, under their hats, I remember someone checking like under their belt, it was a 10-game suspension.
But there is a substance that still can be applied to baseball. A brand new baseball out of the factory is slick, hard to get a firm grip on. So Major League Baseball rules do require that each baseball be rubbed by a special rubbing mud for at least 30 seconds on game day. The mud that has been used since the 1930s is Lena Blackburn's baseball rubbing mud. Lena, who was a man, was the third base coach for the then Philadelphia Athletics and found this mud near Palmyra in New Jersey. It's still collected from the New Jersey side of the Delaware River. I remember my days as a youth playing in that Palmyra mud. I was on the other side of New Jersey. Now, every major league team since the 1950s gets about 10 pounds of mud at the start of each season.
Did you know that the umpires are the ones to rub the mud on the ball?
Right.
Yeah. It looks like a dark brown modeling clay, and the company is still family owned. There's one person, he goes out and he collects all the mud in the fall, stores it for the winter, and packages it, and then ships it in the spring. Oddly, I was surprised. There's not much money in the business. But the quote from the owner says, from 1938 on all those record home runs and thousands of strikeouts, my family's mud has been on every ball.
He's very proud.
Yeah, he is. He's actually saying he's looking forward to his daughter taking over the business one day.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to game use, Major League Baseball mandates a ball be stored in a humidor for at least 14 days before game use. It cannot be taken out of the humidor more than 2 hours prior to the first pitch. Now, why? Well, balls stored in a humidor have a higher water content, so they're a bit heavier, meaning they won't travel as far as drier balls. Also, pitchers are able to get a better grip on the ball. Humidors were first used in 2002 in the high-altitude Coors Field where the Rockies play. Then the Diamondbacks started using one in 2018. Finally, in 2022, Major League Baseball mandated that all 30 teams use humidors with specific standards.
I read that the humidors are in the tunnels under the stadiums. They're under lock and key. But I'm curious. I wonder if there are a few cigars in there.
I mentioned that I submitted my ballot a while back to the Shrine of Eternals, that fun alternate Hall of Fame associated with the Baseball Reliquary that we covered in episode 22, which celebrates groundbreaking players as well as some quirky choices involving the lore of the game. One of my picks was Reuben Berman. And now you may never have heard of Berman, but if you're ever fortunate enough to catch a foul ball at a major league game, you can thank Berman. Because of him, you can keep it. Now, going way back to 1921, in the Polo Grounds again, Berman, a 31-year-old stockbroker, was enjoying a game with the New York Giants facing the Reds. Most teams, including the Giants back then, had policies that fans could not keep foul balls. They had to give them back. Well, Berman caught one. The ushers descended on him and demanded it back. He refused to give it back and instead tossed it back into the crowd. Berman was taken actually by security to the team office, threatened with arrest, and finally kicked out of the Polo Grounds. Well, the Giants thought they were done with him, but Berman wound up suing the New York Giants for $20,000 for mental and bodily distress and humiliation. Now, Berman won the case. He was only awarded $100, but the Polo Grounds and a lot of other stadiums and other clubs with the same policy, really changed their rules after that. So thank you, Reuben. I feel like it's one of those Bud Light Real Men of Genius ads. Thank you, Mr. Foul Ball Keeper.
I love it.
I've never caught a foul ball at a game. I'm not sure what my reaction would be if I was excited to catch one and then some little kid appeared next to me hoping that I'll give him the ball. I mean, you're supposed to surrender it, but, you know.
Yeah, I remember at one of our games, I don't remember where we were, Chicago maybe, we had a foul ball drop right near our son, and it was so intense, so stressful. But I love all those kids that come to the games with their gloves on. You know, that's dreaming big.
Yeah, and stealing them away from adults that catch the ball.
So Jerry, tell me, you catch a home run, but it's for the other team. What do you do with the ball?
Yeah, they want you to toss it back on the field.
Yeah, what do you do? But it's the only one you'll probably ever catch in your lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting older. I don't have any more chances.
I know. Just saying.
I'll have to make that decision in the moment.
Okay.
Well, now you've heard more about the baseball than you ever wanted or needed to know. So let's get to that trivia answer. Remember, who's the only person in the Pro Football and Professional Baseball Hall of Fame? Well, there have been a few high-profile players like Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders who had pro careers in both sports, but none of them have had the stats and longevity to make the Hall of Fame. So there's a bit of a trick in this question, right? You got it. The answer is Cal Hubbard. Now, he was a dominant lineman and linebacker for the New York Football Giants and Green Bay Packers in the 1920s and 30s. But after football, had a second career as a baseball umpire. And it's as an umpire that he's actually inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Tricky.
Question. Well, fun time today.
I have to say, I'm amazed I did not once say that's what she said with the topic of this episode.
Oh, yeah. That's
we kept it clean
remarkable
the
restraint.
whole time.
Well, it was fun, an episode. Join us Thursday for our next episode about that great Hall of Fame Orioles third baseman, Brooks Robinson. Thanks always to Brooke, my producer.
You're welcome.
And shout out especially to Connor at the old Pig and Whistle Bar, who assured me he'd be listening. And we're always happy you're listening and hope you'll keep listening. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, where, hey, you can watch us, or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Heading back to the locker room, this is Jerry Dines and Fungos and Fastballs.